The old red sedan sputtered one last time before dying on the shoulder of Highway 42. Sarah Mitchell gripped the steering wheel and let out a long breath. Her black judicial robe lay carefully folded on the passenger seat, and her daughter Emma sat in the back, clutching her stuffed bear. "Mommy, why did the car stop?" "It just needs a little rest, sweetheart." Sarah was 32 years old and had been a county judge for only 6 months. Today she presided over a complicated custody hearing, and tomorrow's docket was even heavier. The last thing she needed was car trouble on this isolated stretch of road. She pulled out her phone. No signal. The sun was setting, painting the wheat fields in shades of gold and amber. Emma was only 4 and didn't understand why they couldn't just get home. Sarah felt the weight of single motherhood pressing down on her shoulders like never before. Then she saw the truck pulling over behind them. A man in his mid-30s stepped out, wearing work jeans and a gray T-shirt stained with honest labor. His name was Jake Carson, though Sarah didn't know that yet. He had kind eyes and moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd fixed 1,000 broken things. "Engine trouble?" he called out, approaching slowly so he wouldn't startle them. Sarah hesitated. She'd been taught to be cautious. But something about his weathered face and genuine smile made her feel safe. "I think so. It just died. Mind if I take a look?" She nodded and stepped out, instinctively moving between Jake and her daughter. Jake propped open the hood, and steam billowed out. He didn't flinch, just waited for it to clear, then leaned in to examine the engine. His hands were scarred and callous, the hands of a man who'd worked for everything he had. "When's the last time you changed your coolant?" Sarah felt her cheeks flush. "I'm not sure. My ex-husband used to handle all that." Jake glanced back at her, and she saw no judgment in his eyes, only understanding. "No worries. Radiator hose split clean through. You're lucky you didn't blow the engine. Can you fix it?" "Not permanently, not here, but I can patch it well enough to get you to town. There's a proper mechanic shop about 15 miles up the road." Emma had gotten out of the car and was standing beside Sarah now, peeking around her mother's legs at the stranger. "Hi there," Jake said softly, giving the little girl a gentle wave. Emma buried her face in Sarah's skirt. Jake returned to his truck and came back with a toolbox that looked like it had stories to tell. He worked methodically, his movements practiced and sure. Sarah watched him in the fading light, noticing the wedding ring tan line on his finger where no ring currently sat. "You don't have to do this," she said. "I can call a tow truck when we get signal." "Already doing it," Jake replied without looking up. "Besides, little one there looks tired. Best get you both home." 20 minutes later, he straightened up and wiped his hands on a rag. "That should hold. Drive carefully and don't let the engine get too hot. Stop if you see the temperature gauge climbing." "How much do I owe you?" Jake shook his head. "Nothing. Just helping out." "Please, let me pay you something." "Tell you what, when you see someone else who needs help, you help them. That's payment enough." Sarah felt tears prickling at her eyes. She'd been so stressed, so overwhelmed, and this stranger had shown her kindness without wanting anything in return. "Thank you," she managed. "Really, thank you. You're welcome. Now get going before it's full dark." As they drove away, Emma said, "That man was nice, Mommy." "Yes, sweetheart. Yes, he was." The next morning, Sarah arrived at the courthouse early. She had 3 cases on the docket, and the first one was the most difficult. A custody dispute where the father was fighting for sole custody of his young son. The mother had abandoned them both 2 years ago, and the father had been raising the boy alone while working 2 jobs. She reviewed the case file one more time before court convened. The father's name jumped out at her, Jake Carson. Her heart stopped. When Jake walked into the courtroom, their eyes met. She saw the recognition dawn on his face, followed by something that looked like resignation. He probably thought his act of kindness would count against him now, that she'd see it as manipulation. But Sarah knew better. She'd seen real character on that roadside. The hearing proceeded with painful slowness. Jake's ex-wife's attorney argued that a child needed a mother, that Jake's work schedule wasn't stable enough, that he couldn't provide the proper home environment. Sarah listened to testimony about Jake's long hours at the auto shop he managed, about his small apartment, about his struggle to make ends meet. Then she heard from the social worker who'd visited Jake's home. The apartment was small but spotless. The boys' room was filled with second-hand toys, lovingly repaired. Jake attended every parent-teacher conference, every school event. He'd given up his own dreams to make sure his son had everything he needed. When it was time for her ruling, Sarah looked directly at Jake. "Mr. Carson, would you stand, please?" He rose, and she could see the fear in his eyes. He thought he was about to lose his son. "Yesterday evening, my car broke down on Highway 42. A stranger stopped to help us. He fixed my car, refused payment, and sent us safely on our way. He showed kindness to someone he'd never met and would likely never see again." Jake's attorney looked confused. The ex-wife's attorney started to object, but Sarah held up her hand. "That stranger was you, Mr. Carson. You had no idea who I was. You didn't help me because you thought it would benefit you in court. You helped because that's who you are." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the courtroom. "The evidence in this case is clear. You have provided your son with stability, love, and sacrifice. You've worked yourself to exhaustion to give him a good life. Most importantly, you've shown him through your actions what it means to be a good person." Sarah looked at the ex-wife, who sat stone-faced beside her attorney. "Sole custody is granted to the father. This court is adjourned." The gavel came down. Jake stood frozen for a moment, then his shoulders began to shake. He wasn't a man who cried easily, but the relief was overwhelming. His attorney hugged him, congratulating him, but Jake was looking at Sarah. After the courtroom cleared, she found him in the hallway. "Thank you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I didn't do you any favors, Mr. Carson. I made my ruling based on the evidence and what's best for your son. Your actions yesterday simply confirmed what the case file already showed me. You're a good father. Still, thank you for seeing me." Sarah smiled. "You saw me first. When I was broken down on the side of the road with my daughter, scared and alone, you saw someone who needed help. That says everything about your character." They stood there for a moment. Two single parents who'd both been through battles and come out scarred, but standing. "I hope that repair holds," Jake said finally. "I hope you know how lucky your son is," Sarah replied. As she watched him walk away to collect his boy from the waiting area, Sarah thought about the strange paths life takes us on. How a broken radiator hose could lead to a moment of justice. How kindness offered freely could come back when you needed it most.